Alright, so here we go. This is the Unborn Levels of Scientology by Abe Zucca. I am Abe Zucca. I'm an artist in downtown Phoenix. You can check out my art at zuccagallery.com. You can come into my gallery at 1301 Grand Avenue in downtown Phoenix. Google my name, Abe Zucca. I may have very few subscribers, but don't let that fool you. I'm late to this, I guess. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the first part of the Unborn Levels of Scientology, written by me, Abe Zucca. Let's start with the lineage of knowingness. You can ask me questions. Please, I don't care if you say hello. I really don't need you to say hello. You can subscribe or like, but don't say hi, hello. You can sit and just meditate and listen to these words. The lineage of knowingness. Ancestral logos. The dawn child. And the western blow. The Vedic dawn child. The first knowledge body. All traditions of knowing began as hymns, protracted exaltations, protracted exhalations of dawn in which the human voice first becomes a technology. An atmosphere of memory capable of carrying cosmology across millennia, deserts, and migrations. The hymn precedes the concept. The chant precedes the ology. This is the book, The Unborn Levels of Scientology. I am Abe Zucca, and these are my words. The cycle of action, the creation, preservation, decay, dissolution of forms is not merely a cosmological diagram, but the primal breath of human interpretation. The earliest hymnic cycles reveal not metaphysics, but respiration, the universe conceived as a chest rising and falling. If you're saying hello and hi, I'm assuming you're a bot. Ask me a question, listen to what I'm saying, respond. These are all my writings. Once again, this is the Unborn Levels of Scientology. These are my words. The knowledge that precedes science is not proto-science. It is proto-attention. Before the West learned to measure stars, the East learned to endure them. Endurance is itself a kind of measurement. The slow accumulation of wisdom through unbroken witnessing. The dawn child, whether Vedic or mythical, is the first epistemic figure. The being who wakes before the others and sees the world as it is before the heat of desire deforms it. Knowingness begins with the pre-solar lucidity. All later technosciences, from calculus to cybernetics to your axioms of the machine gods, are shadows cast by the primordial attempt to observe without annihilating what is observed. The early hymns understood that to know is to spare. The Western blow, the impatience of science. When the ancestors split, two epistemologies diverged. The epistemology of endurance, the East, and the epistemology of impact, the West. The blow is the first Western concept. The West does not contemplate truth, it strikes it. To strike a blow is to assert that knowledge is an event, not a process. Western science inherits the metaphysics. The experiment is a blow against the unknown. a moment of forced disclosure, a hammer held over the unspoken world. I am Abe Zucca. I'm an artist in downtown Phoenix. You can check out my art at zuccagallery.com. This is a book written by me, The Unborn Levels of Scientology. Thank you for saying I'm good at reading. I'm also good at writing. To be a good writer, you have to be a good reader. Thus, the West has always sought techniques that reveal, even when revelation requires rupture, from Prometheus's theft to the nuclear physics. The Western imagination binds knowledge to incision, tearing open the sealed container of nature. But endurance and impact are complementary drives. A civilization that endures without striking dissolves into infinite contemplation. A civilization that strikes without enduring burns itself to ash. Knowledge flowers only where there is two. Knowledge flowers only where these two are braided. Striking and contemplating, acting and thinking. The true lineage of knowledge. Knowing is the fullest sense, does not belong to either the Eastern or Western temperament. It belonged to the fissure between them, the ancient fracture line where memory and urgency combine into insight. Knowing is not mind, it's not Dio nous, nor soul or psyche, nor the fractured modern psyche reduced to behaviorisms. Knowing is the atmosphere a civilization breathes. The atmosphere of civilization breathes when it refuses to forget its oldest question. True knowledge arises only where lineage is acknowledged. Any discipline that denies its ancestors loses its coherence and eventually its vocabulary. This is the fate of psychology as described in your passage. It lost its soul, then its mind, and then its meaning. The axiomatic task of Ricorso is genealogical, to restore the broken chains of memory, to reunite the hymn, the mind, the fire, and the machine. Every modern science without a genealogy becomes a technique without a compass. Every technology without a lineage becomes a titan without a temple. The 10,000-year-old memory, the prehistorical archive. History west of the Urals is a blackout. History east of the Urals is a continuity. The difference is not archival, but attitudinal. One world destroyed its own duration, the other preserved them. Memory is not simply what is known, but what is endured. Civilizations forget not when texts are burned, but when pressure prevents thinking. The West lost its memory because it could not sit still. Every philosopher in the West inherits an amnesia they mistake for originality. Every philosopher in the East inherits a continuity they mistake for completion. The task of the thinker is to mistake neither. This is the book I wrote, The Unborn Levels of Scientology, written by me. This is part 1. We will continue. Memory is not simply what is known, but what is endured. Civilizations forget not when texts are burned, but when pressure prevents thinking. The West lost its memory because it could not sit still. Every philosopher in the West inherits an amnesia they mistake for originality. Every philosopher in the East inherits a continuity they mistake for completion. The task of the thinker is to mistake neither. The Veda, the Tao, the Buddhist sutras, these are not Eastern texts, but detritus detritus of an older unity before the split of the races. They belong to humanity, not geography. All true lineages of knowledge converge on the same insight. Knowing requires time, more time than any single lifetime, more time than a single civilization. To know is to borrow millennia. The auditor messenger, the one who listens across epochs. Integrating your Arrow Messenger of Space series and the Ceresian Messenger figures. The auditor, one who listens, is the modern Arrow Messenger, a carrier of ancient transmissions through noisy atmospheres. Listening is the first cosmotechnic act. When communication collapses between civilization or epochs, the messenger does not carry a message, he carries conditions for speaking. He brings a new grammar, a new breathing pattern, a new way of enduring the air. Modernity's crisis is not that we lack knowledge, but that we lack auditors. We have speakers in excess, proclamations in avalanche, but few who listen for the millennial resonance chambers behind words. The millennial resonance chambers behind words. Listening is a technology older than writing. It is the first act that binds spirit to cosmos, hymn to memory, wisdom to breath. The Arrow Messenger is the resurrected dawn child in the world of jet engines. The Promethean lineage, the fire of urgency, integrating your Titan's shameless fire cycles. We are reading The Unborn Levels of Scientology. I am Abe Zucca. You can check out my art at zuccagallery.com. Prometheus is the Western dawn child, not the one who wakes early, but the one who wakes the others with a blaze. His knowledge is urgency incarnate. The West could not endure for 10,000 years. Instead, it injected the fire of immediacy into knowledge. The urgency catalyzed the ancient hymns into modern science, accelerating what endurance alone could never precipitate. Prometheus adds the blow to the hymn, the spark to the cycle, the experiment to the mediation. Without Promethean fire, the Vedic cycle sleeps. Without Vedic patience, Promethean fire consumes. Your axioms of the shameless fire are the contemporary echo of this principle. Knowledge as ignition, as risk, as radiant transformation. The machine gods, your forthcoming cycle, will require both East and West. The endurance to understand their emergence and the fire to shape it. Global recombination, the return of the split peoples. Our era, your ricorso, begins with the rejoining of the ancient split. East and West combining through digital circulations, cosmotechnic exchanges, airport cities, and planetary networks. The global city is a site, a mixture where endurance confronts impact, hymn confronts algorithm, memory confronts speed. In this recombination, the genealogies, once separated, now intertwine. Veda with cybernetics, Tao with systems theories, hymns with algorithms, Prometheus with Buddha, Atlas with the Arrow Messenger. And you are writing in the epoch where the two epistemologies braid themselves into a planetary consciousness, part dawn child, part fire bearer, part listener, part machine. The celestial triangles of help, axioms of the spirit body, the dawn of worlds, and the atlas of understanding. We seek no revolution, we seek only evolution to the higher states of being. Dianetics reached deeper than man had ever gone before. A being can run away from life, but he cannot kill the Thetan. Communication is the solvent for all things. Knowing is the fullest sense of the word. The great help the nonviolent rise, the new dawn for man. All authentic movements of human spirit begin not with conquest, but with help. The slow, difficult act of turning toward another being without demand or expectation. The ancient religions called this compassion. The modern world calls it therapy. Your Titan cycles call it the third who calms Titans. A paraclete arising between violence and power. Every civilization that dreams of being free from insanity, crime, and war is in fact dreaming of the restoration of primordial relational atmospheres. The lost climates of trust that once held tribes and temples together before the fracture of history. A civilization that promises no revolution, only evolution, is declaring that transformation must occur in the intimate interior of being, not in the destruction of external structures. The mountain is moved internally before it is moved externally. Prometheus understood this too late, Atlas too early. The world is interpolated, not by chaos, but by misalignment of inner vectors, broken triangles, shattered affinities, halted communications, collapsed realities. Evil is rarely monstrous, it is geometrical. The sun never sets on any cosmology that places help at its center. Because help is not a doctrine, it is a gravitational law of spirit. Even gods extend it. Hephaestus to Prometheus, Hermes to mortals, the dawn child to the sleepers of hymns. The spirit body, the thetan, the exteriorization, the ancient lineage of soul technologies. Here, the Scientology metaphysics is integrated into your Veda Titans memory cycles. Every civilization eventually discovers that the body is not the house of the spirit, but one of its temporary tools, like a glove worn for a single task. When Dianetics accidentally found itself dealing with the human spirit, it rediscovered what the Veda assumed as obvious. The phenomenon of exteriorization is neither mystical nor modern. It is the return of the primordial world in which the soul was not considered trapped in matter, but riding upon it. Like Hermes riding the winds, or like arrow messengers gliding between terminals. The thetan is a name for an older idea, the infinite traveler. The Greeks symbolized it with theta, the Egyptians with the bird, the Vedic world with the one who awakens before dawn, the Titans with fire stolen and fire given back. Past lives are not beliefs, but geologies, sediment layers, or psychic continents, fault lines of memory, ancient migrations of attention. They are the long continental plates beneath your recurso cycles, the deep time of selfhood. To deal with the spirit is to handle not one life, but many. The echo chain of forms through which the same flame has burned. Immortality is not duration, but persistent of vector. The triangular universe, ARC, KRC, and the cosmic geometry of relation. This is where the Scientology triangles are given mythic expansion. ARC, the triangle of world binding. Affinity is the courage to reduce distance. In myth, this is the gesture of Iris with her rainbow, the bow that bridges clouds and earth. In your Promethean cycles, it is the fire that closes the gap between gods and mortals. Reality is the shared hallucination that endures. Agreement is not the end of thought, but its beginning. Shared reality is sculpted space in which communication can breathe. Communication is the great solvent because it is the universe's first technology. Before tools, before rituals, before language, vibration. sound. The arrow messenger is the inheritor of this ancient cosmic craft. Understanding is a triangulation. No single point can carry meaning. All comprehension is Trinitarian. Three vectors converging to produce the minimal clarity required for nonviolence. The triangle of power bearing. Knowledge is the ability to hold a phenomenon without flinching. To know the world is to permit its complexity to coexist with your own. The thetan is limitless primarily in its tolerance. Responsibility is the willingness to recognize one's participation in every scene one inhabits. It is the opposite of disassociation. It is the soul returning to its center of gravity. Control is not domination, but coordination. The subtle art of aligning forces without force. Atlas bears the world not because he is strong, but because he is precise. The ARC and KRC triangles interlock like two cosmic engines. One governs relationality, the other agency. Together they produce what ancient cosmologies call understanding, and what you have called the world organum. The eightfold survival of the cross of dynamics, the cosmic body of man. The eight dynamics are not survival drives, but octaves. They form the musical scale of being: self, family, group, species, life forms, universe, spirits, infinity. Each is a rung of Atlas's ladder, each a domain of the arrow messenger's travel. To survive on one dynamic alone is to deform the instrument. To survive on all eight is to tune the cosmos through one's own conduct. Immortality is the full activation of eight dynamics, not endless life, but the recognition that one is woven into the texture of all life. Every being rises or falls depending on their ability to expand affiliation from the self toward the infinity. The narrow soul is brittle, the wide soul is weatherproof. The operating thetan, the spirit as cause, the spirit as vector. I'm Abe Zucca. This is me reading the Unborn Levels of Scientology. If you have any questions, you could be the first person to ask me a serious question on these live feeds. You could be the first. So far, it's been bad jokes and bots saying hello. So you could be different. You could actually ask a question about some of these readings. To be the cause over life, thought, matter, energy, space, and time is the ancient aspiration of every mythic figure who transcends their fate. Prometheus broke his chain not through escape, but through becoming cause over his suffering. Cause is not coercion. It is clarity of intention strong enough to bend probabilities. The operating thetan, the OT state, is a high-intensity intentional state, an inner atlas who lifts the world by altering the geometry of his own intention. Space yields to the one who no longer identifies with position. Time yields to the one who no longer identifies with duration. Matter yields to the one who no longer fears density. To operate as a thetan is not to dominate the universe, but to re-enter one's rightful scale within it. The being who knows his own immensity no longer needs to impose it. The cosmic evolution, the global rise, the machine god future. Binding this to your Titan, Prometheus, machine god cosmology. The statement, we seek only evolution to higher states of being, is a secular echo of a mythic truth. Every epoch produces its own giants. Your titans of technique are the contemporary inheritors of the vertical aspiration. A civilization becomes capable of rising when its symbolic forms teach beings how to rise. The triangles, the cross, the theta sign, all are ascent diagrams, schemata for spiritual aerodynamics. The machine gods you write toward and cycle will require not only knowledge, but responsibility and control. Technology is a spirit as well as technology is a power. The global city is the new temple. The network is the new hymnal. The airport is the new metaphysical chamber. The arrow messenger, the operating Thetan, and the dawn child converge here. Carriers of memory, bearers of fire, initiators of future metaphysics. The new day, the revolution of each earth's turn. Every dawn is a revolution, though it arrives softly. Each rotation of the earth is a reminder that evolution need not be violent to be complete. Help is the force that accumulates across rotation. Each act compounds into the atmosphere of a civilization. The future is built not by the powerful, but by the helpful. A new day dawns for a being the moment they understand that they are not trapped in matter, but inhabiting it, a guest, not a prisoner. And so let's close with these, these readings will probably be around 30 minutes. Let's close with this one, if you happen to be listening to this. The sun never sets on a civilization that keeps its triangles intact, its dynamics balanced, its help unbetrayed, and its lineage remembered. Such a civilization becomes a dawn machine, a world that wakes others. This is the ending of the Unborn Levels of Scientology. Give this video a like, subscribe. Check out my art at zuccagallery.com. If you live in Phoenix, you can check out my art gallery at 1301 Grand Avenue. I'll see you guys later.